Hello and welcome to our authority interview series. Here we are again with another interview with an amazing authority expert who is here to inspire us as the others have. And I'm very, very excited about this interview because this person that I'm about to introduce you to has been in our space for a while now, and I've really just gotten to know him and I've seen the work that he's doing. His app is absolutely incredible. His app is called Inclusive Leaders Academy. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how he goes out there and works with companies and managers and CEOs and helps them really transform their business from the kind of the inside out. And I'm really excited about this interview here. So without any further delay, let me introduce you to Nicholas Harvey.
Thank you, Robert. So glad to be here with you.
It's great to be here. Great to have you here too, Nicholas. You've actually launched your app what over a year ago now? Has
Yes.
it been? It's been a while now. So you've been
Yes.
around, just really. And the thing is that you. It's not just that you have great content and a great message that of what you're doing, and we're going to definitely dive into a lot of that, but it's just your whole energy about you. It's just you come into the space, you smile, and you just really make other people smile, and it's just a real honor to have you here with us and to tell us more about what you got going on. So let's just
Sure.
kind of start off with, well, who are you, and how did you come to do what you're doing today, and a little bit about what you do so that we can start to dive into that.
Sure. My major work is around creating welcoming workplaces. It's what people have traditionally called diversity, equity, inclusion. However, I've just found myself frustrated, with it. I ask this simple question of people: what other business problem would you have for 60 years and not have a solution?
Yeah, that's interesting.
There has to be something going on, right? Is that in terms of the leadership? Is it in terms of processes? Could it be maybe some people just don't want it solved, right? From my perspective, it's one that is the classic human capital problem, right? And so it's really the kind of piece of where we're human beings. Can we treat can we treat people as human beings? Respect them the way that they want to be respected, and the idea of can we get along and do this thing together.
So when you get in and you start to work with companies and their culture, uh, do you kind of see a lot of the common problems that shows up in these different companies and these different teams? Is that pretty common that the same things keep showing up? It's like the definition of insanity. It's like where they want to change, but
Right.
but they keep doing the same thing over and over again, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So one of the things that I want to talk about is maybe some contrarian moves, right? The idea of the duty to dissent, right? Have you ever sat in a meeting with a group and someone comes with a great idea and everybody's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And there's nobody who will say, that's a stupid idea. Why would we do that, right? One of the things that I ask in terms of working with teams is for folks to actually practice. So, so some of us have that personality that's like, oh, well, here goes Nicholas again, sort of finding out what's wrong. But how about we rotate that? Because I think that's a skill that really needs to be developed in people. They're critical thinking skills, one, but also having an environment where just because somebody disagrees, they could be really trying to sharpen, or hone an idea as opposed to just simply being
Ah,
against it,
yes,
right?
yes.
Because everybody thinks that, if I say, I don't like this, we take it personally. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
When we're talking about a problem, we're talking about a challenge, we're going to take it and we're going to lay it on the table. We're going to talk about that, and we're collaborative problem solvers together.
Yeah. Where most people, I like what you're saying there. That's really important because when someone does challenge an idea, people often say, well, they're just trying to veto it. They're just trying to kick it to the curb. But that's not really what's going on. A lot of people are challenging the idea in order to make it maybe better
Hmm.
or, or take everybody down a path to a solution that might make a lot more sense.
Yes.
And do you think that in teams and in corporations, a lot of people don't feel like they have permission to do that?
I agree. Yes,
Yeah.
that's where it is. Because we say, "Oh, we want to hear your ideas." It's like, really? Well, the last time I shared my
Yeah.
ideas, you shot me down. So now, how do we go about creating, atmospheres of psychological safety, right, where people feel that they can contribute without fear of reprisal, right? And so that's why I like the idea of we're talking about the issue. I'm not talking about you.
And that's what you do is you go into these companies and you create those processes or the ways of going about doing that.
Right.
And it sounds like that can, in a lot of ways, shift the whole culture of the company and the experience that people have within it.
And that's exactly what it is,
Yeah.
right? Because um, I don't call myself, a diversity, equity, inclusion expert. People have kind of labeled me as that because of my ability to bring about some change, some transformation, and some results. Um, that's the work that I tend to be doing. Again, it's the human capital problem. Leadership and organizational development and culture, that's what I do. Because when people go ahead and decide that this is what's important, that's how the change happens. And then you're able to implement and have the necessary processes. And I also believe political will to get the job done.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Do you find that even though they want this change to happen, some of the people higher up in the organizations or the companies will want to resist that because it in some way kind of threatens their authority? Or do you find that the people that hire you are really ready for this change to happen?
I'll just sort of say it depends.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I really prefer to have the buy-in from those input level decision makers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I want to talk to the C-suite folks.
Yeah.
So it's not only those who have the authority to say yes, but it's also those who have sufficient influence to say no.
Yeah.
And getting the buy-in. So often, many sort of coaches and consultants are talking to people who then have to go talk to somebody else. I'm sort of like, well, why am I talking to you? Right?
Yeah.
Again, input level decision makers, the C-suite people, I think it needs to be CEO led, and that the CEO has an understanding of what needs to happen. And then we can go ahead and delegate and create our processes.
Yeah.
And that's where the success comes.
Yeah. Kind of from top down.
From top down.
Yeah. Example of that. That's great. Your app, Inclusive Leaders Academy,
Mm-hmm.
is it directed towards just corporations or people within corporations, or could it be something of value to, let's say, an entrepreneur?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because again, you think about not only the entrepreneur herself or himself, think about their clients, you think about even the organization that they're trying to build, right?
Yeah.
How can you relate to clients, team members, bench members, vendors, in a way that's appropriate and affirming to them?
Interesting. That's great. When someone downloads your app and they start to go through the things that you have in there, what is the experience that you want people to have in the app that you feel really gives them understanding or kind of a sampling of what's possible through your work?
Yeah, even from the beginning, right? The idea that you download the app and then here I am. I'm saying welcome. So often as I engage people, I usually say sort of welcome family, right?
Yeah.
So that immediately we're creating a connection here that this is a place that is really for you and about you. And so then, as they decide, they have opportunities to participate in a monthly forum that I hold, just to provide support for people who do this work. Because where can they go? Who really understands sort of the trials, or the rigor of what they're going through in the job? Because many diversity executives, these are new positions. Sometimes it's people who have never had experience in doing diversity work before. Their average tenure is 1.7 years as opposed to 4 years for C-suite leaders. They're not lasting. They're often an office of one, so they don't have the staff support or other types of resourcing. Where do you go? Who understands that? And so you begin getting that sense already as we move them through to say, hey, this is a place that's for you. We're here to be of service. We're here to be a benefit, and can then take you through processes that you can get the resources and the community that you need for whatever the change is that you're seeking.
Yeah. Now, in all that you teach and all that you bring into this space for these teams and CEOs or the employees of corporations, what do you think is the single most important message you want them to get, let's say, right away? What's the one that really just kind of opens things up for them to just say, oh, okay, this is good. I need to really, I need to dive deep into this. Is there one particular core message that you like to get across?
Yeah, it's really one around authenticity. right?
Authenticity. Okay. Love this.
That's what people are not experiencing for any number of reasons, that people don't feel they can show up at work as their best authentic selves.
So when they do start showing up that way,
Hmm.
when the culture, either the culture changes and give them more of the space to do that, or they give themselves permission to do that, which probably is in a lot of ways some of it, right? It's like, okay, or they have the skills, or they're taught the ways of going about showing up authentically without them being labeled the the difficult one in the office.
Sure, sure.
When they do start to show up authentically, what happens? What starts to happen within the company, within themselves, that you've
Right.
that you've seen?
Yeah, the first transformation happens within themselves. You know, can you imagine just this weight and this release, that people experience where they can actually be themselves,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And then you start seeing how they begin to engage others differently.
mm-hmm.
And then you start thinking about the performance of teams, all right? Even just having an honest conversation to say, you know what, respectfully, I disagree, without someone saying, well, ascribing it to something else. No, we have this place where, it's okay because we understand that we have common goals, right? And there's an alignment in terms of our own values about what it is that we hope to accomplish, and we can do this together. I'm respecting you the way you want to be respected,
Mm-hmm.
respecting me the way I want to be respected, so we can all show up and do this thing together. And the stress, I mean, we can start talking about the statistics around the health problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we're talking about mental health
Mm-hmm.
and the challenges that people are having for not being able to show up as themselves. I mean, even rates of suicide,
Mm.
for people who cannot be themselves. And so there's a benefit not only in the workplace, but individually and our societal benefit.
Yeah, that authenticity is a unlock. It unlocks and releases
Right,
a lot of what people feel like they need to be, and that's powerful.
right. And so
And,
that's why the leadership is so important,
yeah,
because when the leadership understands that, then they can create, that type of environment.
and encourage it.
They
Yeah,
encourage it,
yeah.
but then also this, because there's always it's like, oh man, this sounds wonderful, Nicholas. Tell me about it. You're going to be held accountable,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so let's be honest about that.
So they have to change at the same time, or
Right.
otherwise it's just kind of not working. Yeah,
But it also gives leaders to be permission to be their authentic selves too, right?
yeah,
Because as leadership has shifted, remember from sort of the military industrial complex to command and control structures, to this the sage,
yeah,
from on high. Well, that model of leadership is no more because we know it's like, no, you're not as bright as you want to come off,
yeah,
and to be able to have that sense of, hey, as a leader, I need your help.
yeah,
So let's do this together. I don't know everything. That's why I hired you. If I knew everything, what do I need you for,
yeah,
right? And so I think it creates great opportunities in organizations.
yeah. And I take the ripple, of course, comes and it affects the bottom line. Profit is a big byproduct of this too. In
Sure.
what ways does that help? In what ways does this work and this teams and managers showing up authentically
Hmm.
help the profit of a company?
Sure. So one of the challenges that we find organizations are having right now around recruitment and retention.
Hmm.
And so you think about, what does it cost to replace a worker, usually somewhere in the area of from 1.2, to twice their salary to replace a worker. So if you have a turnover rate, and just start doing the numbers of replacing people. I was working with an organization that had a turnover rate of 35%.
Mm.
And I said to them, it's like, this is how much money is going out the door, and this is what is doing. Just do the math.
Yeah.
What happens if you're able to get people to stay? And why is it that people leave? They don't feel they belong.
So you're telling me that if someone shows up for work and they want to be there and they're enjoying being there, that's actually going to Yeah, I mean but it's funny
Right.
that's not an obvious thing, right?
It's
Yeah.
not.
Happy employees, so that ever heard that phrase, happy wife, happy life, right? But happy employees is profitable business,
It
right?
is
Yeah.
it is good business.
Yeah.
And just by way of disclosure, it sort of just frustrates me when some people say you have to make the business case for the work that you do. It's like, why? It makes just good sense.
Yeah.
Treat people right, and people will do the stuff that they need to do.
Yeah. Why do you think this message is important in today's world, in today's corporate culture and experience?
Right. Yeah. Um, I, I like the way you put it first in terms of the world, that how many people really are just not showing up as themselves. They have to hide their hurt, their pain, their vulnerability. And again, the weight and the stresses on people. Wouldn't it be nice, right, if one people can do that? But then the other piece is being able to appreciate people for who they are and appreciating human difference, right? Difference actually makes us smarter. Engaging something out of the ordinary or different actually creates different new neural pathways in our brains.
Yeah.
So there's just great benefit to that.
Uh,
And once we meet somebody else, we're meeting somebody who's they're not us. They're not other. They're just not us. How do we negotiate and navigate that? Because it's a big, wide world out there, and I believe that if you embrace that world will also embrace you.
yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I could see the benefit of just how it just ripples. I mean, if you think about it, the great majority of the time that we spend on this earth is at the office, right? For a lot of people, right?
Right.
Obviously everybody has different experiences, but the people that do go into a company and sit
Mm-hmm.
at a desk or do whatever that they do, um, if they're not happy, if they're not enjoying the experience, if they just feel like they have to be there just to be there to live and exist, that brings back that energy into the
Yes.
home, into the family, to the
Yes.
kids, to the weekend, and the world is just a much more miserable place in that way.
Right.
So happy employees, joyful employees, authentic employees
Mm-hmm.
is it ripples into all areas of life.
It does. We're
Yeah,
healthier. We're happier. We're whole, and appreciated and celebrated for that.
yeah, that's great. So, what is one thing that any single person that's in that can benefit from the messages that you have in whether it's employees or
Mhm.
managers or CEOs, what's one thing that a person can do today with your message that can really kind of start the journey?
Yeah. I really think, Robert, for us to take a minute and say, how do I respond? And by that, it's what do I feel
Uh-huh.
when engaging human difference?
Hmm.
We live in a world now where we only want to be with people that think like us, vote like us,
Yeah.
and like, and begin to say, you know what? I want to engage somebody that is just not like me.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, you'll just being out, from at a grocery store or any place, or even that employee,
Yeah.
that's on the job. Your fellow coworker, right? By just taking the minute of being in those spaces and say, how do I feel about this, right? Because we asked the question about before about the app, why do I call it NQ? That inclusive intelligence really talks about what is your orientation towards human difference.
Hmm.
If we can deal with that for just first, all right, then we can start doing some of the other things.
So self-assess and get curious. That's interesting. Is that an accurate way
Yeah,
of saying it?
because think about it.
Yeah.
All intelligence is based in two things:
Hmm.
awareness and management.
Yeah. Awareness. Yes.
So what happens when we have an awareness of ourselves, right, about what's going on? We see something. Why does that make me uncomfortable? What's
Yeah.
what's going on here? And to take that moment and then to say, hey, maybe I can move beyond that. The idea of can I see a movie, read a book, or just switch the cable channel to something to not your usual
Or
fare.
to have the conversation with someone that you may not align with or have the same ideals about,
Right.
but that curiosity of what that person is made up beyond that, right?
Sure. And,
And
and,
I'm sure
and try to
that's
understand that.
all throughout corporate culture is that, I'm sure people are showing up with different political beliefs and ideas about this and that, and if we shut everybody down at the start of the gate, right?
Right.
We don't know, what their life experiences are or what that brought them there. It's
Right.
how can one we understand them, or how could they have a transformation, or you could have a transformation?
Sure. And
Yeah.
and start is something as simple as who's the best baseball team? right?
So yeah, go to sports, right?
Right?
or or whatever
What,
that thing is that.
who makes the best donuts,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just sort of
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
that simply because I think that it's a skill like
Hmm.
any other that we have to practice,
Hmm.
and we don't have opportunities enough to practice it because sometimes we make it too hard. Um, let's try.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, I got one big last question for you.
Okay.
No, then these lights would go off. These are all powered. They might be powering down because it's 6, but let's see what we can do. We're on the last question too.
Right.
Let's just keep the recording going. We'll edit this.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. There's that. It's like a lot brighter. There we go. That works.
Because that happened earlier for a second.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Is there someone in here with us? That'd be funny. They're over there hitting the switch. So, all right. So the last question: what is the impact that you would like to have in the world with the work that you do?
Yeah. My course is called Welcoming Workplace. And the whole idea is we can have a welcoming workplace and world. If we spend all this time at work, we can practice those skills and they are transferable, out into the world, right? And so having the ability to do that is the impact that I would really love to say that people can show up as their authentic selves wherever they are. And that includes not just your allies and your advocates, but your adversaries as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can share a story if you like.
Yes, please.
So had the opportunity to have an engagement with a public agency in North Carolina. They had diversity consultants come in before, and it's always interesting that people tend to catch me on the back end, right? They had a bad experience, and now they're going to hire me, or oh, we've gotten sued. We need to fix this problem. So had the opportunity to do a virtual piece, and my collaborator was putting people in Zoom rooms and the like because I did my whole in-person piece. Now we're going to do the virtual for those who couldn't make it. And she happened to overhear some comments because doing Zoom. She ended up in a Zoom room, and people were talking, and this is the comment that they made. They said, this inclusion stuff, they really mean it includes everybody. And I was like, yeah, that's why the word is inclusion, right?
Yeah.
But yes, it is for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
not just for the underserved, but for everybody. And like I said, not just allies and advocates, but even your adversaries.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great. Well, I definitely feel that what you are bringing into the workplace is critical at this time in life, and because we as people are, we're a lot of people, in general are struggle, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of this. It's not about being negative. It's just about acknowledging that we're in a different time than a lot of us have experienced in our lives. And it's impossible for that not to come into the workplace because we are humans, right? But if they have your message and your teachings and your guidance to come into the workplace and really allow themselves to tap into their authentic self, and to work together as a team to solve problems, to create what they create in whatever business that is. I can only see that just improving everybody's lives. It's not just about the corporation. Obviously, that's important, for they're the ones that are looking to create this transformation, but the ripple that happens thereafter is so powerful. So I see you just across the board changing lives, in every area of life, and including everybody. So I honor you for that, and I thank you for how you show up in the world and work that you do. It's really quite amazing.
Okay, thanks, Robert.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure, my honor.
Yeah. So this is Nicholas Harvey, everybody. Inclusive Leaders Academy is the app. I highly recommend that you download it. Download it for your own benefit, and especially if you are in the corporate space, if you are a manager, if you are a CEO, if you are an entrepreneur that has a team or is planning to have a team, or you work with, vendors or people in general. It's this the value of this is incredibly powerful. If it's and if you're not feeling drawn to this, maybe there's someone that you do know that you can invite to that might be struggling in the job that they have or in the experience or the culture that they're a part of. And this could be a resource for them on their own to really transform individually or even bring into their own company to transform the culture there. Nicholas Harvey. Nicholas, I appreciate you being here today. Again, the app is Inclusive Leaders Academy. Download it off the iPhone or Android app stores today. And thank you, Nicholas, for being here. I appreciate you. And thank you, everybody, for watching another interview here. We'll see you at the next one.
My pleasure. Thank you.